Okay.
All right.
Check one, check two. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Father James. I am shooting this from one of the many lakes in Dartmouth. Dartmouth is known as the city of lakes. It takes me back to October 7th, 1982, almost 40 years ago, when my family and I arrived in Canada for the first time to make our home. I've never forgotten the scene of the plane coming down to land, and the two things I saw were trees, golden and yellow leaves, and of course lakes everywhere. It was incredible. And here we are at the site of one of the more famous lakes in the city of Dartmouth, Lake Bannock, recently featured around the world because of the World Canoeing Championships. This lake actually is very historic. This lake was a very popular route of transportation and gathering place long before Europeans set foot on these shores. It was a main highway, you can say, used by the Migma people. There were two main waterways to get to the Great Chebucto Bay, where the Migma people would gather, I believe, for one major festival during the summer. And one way was through these systems of lakes, the different lakes and rivers that go all the way to Shubenacadie. And there's a few places where you have to portage, but it's linked up incredibly well. And there was the river that went all the way through into Chebucto. The other one was the Sackville River. And it's no coincidence then when Halifax was founded in 1749 that before long there was actually edifices built to guard these waterways by the British. Fort Sackville was built, and even before Fort Sackville was built, I think about a month after they settled on the Halifax shores, they sent a exploration team to the Dartmouth side, and they wanted to build a mill by the river to cut down wood and to cut the wood. And they built a blockhouse just not far from the present site of St. Peter's. And so in many ways, this area, this waterway, was basically blocked. Like the British basically blocked access to Chebucto from the two access points. And so Dartmouth and Fort Sackville became a place of conflict between the settler population and the Aboriginal people. And it's the beginning of a long history, a sordid history in many ways, with the scalp proclamations of Cornwallis and the bounties that were put on Migma families, which were just absolutely unthinkable for us today of how things like this could have been done. Of course, it was very highly politicized. The Migma had made were allied with the Acadians, and so there were many raids on Dartmouth as well. So long history. My point is this, is that the present site of St. Peter's is an historic site. We're right at basically where the lake system joined the river, which was eventually morphed into a canal, but it follows roughly the same route. We're at a very historical point where these joined together, where these peoples clashed. And today, over the last year, we've been reminded, again, painfully reminded of the history of the broken relationship between the European people of European descent in Canada and the Aboriginal peoples, and the historic injustice that was visited upon the Aboriginal peoples. In our own land, the history between, especially us as people of faith, as Catholics in Migma, goes back for more than 500 years with the baptism of Chief Membertou. You know, at the time of the 500th anniversary of the baptism of Chief Membertou, I was blessed to be part of a team that worked to create a documentary that examines the history of the Migma people and looks at some of these issues, both the good times and the bad times. The link is below in the description, and the video is on our YouTube channel. So please check that out. the church was seen to be allied with the Mi'kmaq people. In fact, the original wars between the Mi'kmaq and the British were actually called Father Le Loutre's War. They're actually named after a Catholic priest. Now that's a whole other story. The point is that the church for a long time was allied with the Mi'kmaq people, and in the 19th century, there was a shift in Canada away from this attempt to stand with the Mi'kmaq people and to incorporate the gospel into the language and symbols of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada. Instead, the church allied itself with a government proposition, which was seen by many at the time to be very, very progressive, and that was assimilation and the destruction of Aboriginal cultures, Aboriginal language, and such. And of course, we were very painfully familiar with everything that came as a result of that, all of the other abuses. We are called to be ministers of reconciliation, and on September 30th, we celebrate the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So a couple of things for us as a parish. Number one, I highly recommend you. I was about a year and a half ago, I read the summary report of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, summary report makes it sound short. The summary report is about 360 pages. Better than I think, numerous volumes of the full report, but it's actually very well written, and it is very, very helpful. So if you get a chance to Google that document, you can get the PDF and to read it. For us as a church, last year they had the holiday for the first time, and the Archbishop asked us to not take it as a holiday for people working in parishes, but to make it a day of prayer and reflection. So on September 30th, we will be celebrating Mass at 9 o'clock at Our Lady of Guadalupe at the St. Peter's site, at that historical spot for this city of Dartmouth, for the province of Nova Scotia. And we will be celebrating the Eucharist, and then we will have Eucharistic adoration until 12 noon. And we invite you to come, and to come prepared in particular to pray for the Aboriginal peoples of Canada, to pray for the reconciliation that still has to take place, to pray for the ongoing fruitfulness of the visit of the Aboriginal delegation to Rome, and also of Pope Francis's visit to Canada, that the fruit of those penitential acts will continue to unfold in our midst. Also, we, as you know, the Archdiocese and the other dioceses of Nova Scotia took up a collection that will be used to serve the local Mi'kmaq population as well. So please come and pray, and let's make this a day to reflect, to educate ourselves, and to remember. Remember the history that in many ways began on these very waters. Thank you.